Hello, welcome back. I'm Greg Leach, and this is Art of Cycling. So I'm continuing to work on this piece. There was a little off-camera time from the previous video. And as I stated before, this is loosely, and I do mean loosely, based on an Edouard Vouliard. I really like Vouliard's work. Suggest you look him up. But he is another French Impressionist, a little less known than others, but just as interesting regardless. So this is a portrait of an author, the original image that I'm riffing off of. And so I thought I would make a self-portrait. And this is the first time Cleo appears. In the Vouliard, there is a cat sitting on Duret's, the subject matter of the portrait. There's a cat sitting on his lap. We'll assume it's Duret's cat. And so I thought, well, why not have one of my dogs sitting on my lap? Cleo's the little teeny one. And I also have a full-size dachshund, and he would take over. And doesn't normally sit still. Cleo, actually, if you go back through, you'll see a time-lapse video of me painting, a video of me painting with Cleo, a shot of Cleo at the end, curled up on my lap the whole time I've been working. So this does happen in reality. So right now, and if you look at some of my studio tour paintings, you will see this cabinet that has all of my cycling art stuck in it. So I'm sort of trying to do a riff on, just sort of an abstract gestural quality of what those watercolors look like in the cabinet. So I am having fun sort of doing things I don't normally do in paintings, which is always good. So it's very rare for me to reference my own artwork in paintings. That's something I love. You'll find, particularly once during the Impressionist era, when the Orient opened up and many of the Impressionist paintings became fascinated with Japanese artworks, and they started actually just putting the paintings or their interpretations of the paintings into their own paintings. And I've always loved the views of artwork stuffed, the studio view. So they're paintings of their own paintings leaning against the walls. So this is sort of a nod to that idea. Now, if you search back through these videos, you'll see a lot of the cycling work. So you can kind of judge for yourself my own referencing here. You may find it my referencing wanting, but so it goes. One of the things I'm going to have to figure out. So this is the palette. Is that in camera? Yeah. So this is, I use cake watercolors. So that's the tray of cake watercolors. The palette's just up here above it. And then as you go down, which sort of drops off camera, I'll be working on a painting, and perhaps either just plain paper, probably just plain paper there. So just sort of moving through and adding some of the very loose interpretations of what the watercolors look like. Of course, since we're painting cyclists zooming through the countryside, that's why I thought I've got a friend, professor, I think she's now retired, an art history professor. And besides us having lots of give and take on paintings and what my good ones are and why we get into it. Why something I think is, I'm not that interested in, because to me, the interesting paintings are the ones I fought for. Kind of like this one. So I guess this one earns the title of interesting. And then things happen like that. So what happened there was the oil stick had a dry, this outer shell that's kind of dry, hardened, and it broke off while I was putting a fair amount of pressure to get it to move. And I ended up with color where I didn't want it. And that's, I've talked about it before, but the idea of mistakes being part of a painting. So now you all know that happened. Also realizing that that's too deep, that this should be the floor of it. There, now that makes more sense. And now, come in here and hide that mistake a little bit. There, like it never happened. And on the backs of all these watercolors are written the details about what painting it was, who's in the image, and all of that. I don't know that I've ever shown you all that. All right. So I'm going to unload my hands. And switch to time lapse. All right, obviously over to time lapse, and so continuing to work. I mean, I love watching, and I really talk about what's going on, but it gets a bit droning. So just working now on the portrait. This is a self-portrait, so occasionally you've gotten to see my face. I may be thinking I'm a little more white-haired than I am, but so just sculpting the face, and now I moved, and this is trying to figure out the palette of watercolors, all the little cakes. I actually think I made one too many rows, but it doesn't matter. As I've always told people, nobody will ever see your subject matter. They'll only see your interpretation of it. So relax, let it be what it is. So working through, now I've moved again to get in this little final part of my hand here. Just I spent some time looking at the actual figure and wanted to pop it a little bit more from the background so it's the same colors. Laying in the table, and then just this last little bit of the watercolor that I'm working on. And that really takes the painting to finished, which means time to sign it. What you couldn't see that I wrote so quickly, you'll be able to see later. But here you can just get a close look of the whole painting. I went with the solid sheets of paper, touched up that palette of watercolors a little bit more, darkened up the nose of Cleo there. Here you can get a closer look at what all those, very closer look at those interpretations of my stacks of watercolors of various races. The frame pieces on the wall behind, and that's a direct lift from the original that I'm interpreting. My aged self, white beard and all, and just really showing just how wonderful that texture. And this is what I love about the oil sticks. I know I've said it before, but it really gives you a chance to see. And now with the addition of this other company, the R&F paint sticks, I think it's really a stronger thing. Quickly say thank you all for taking the time to watch. Give it a thumbs up. There's the title for you. And be sure to subscribe. Check back later to see what I paint next. And of course, pretty soon, the Tour de France, and I'll be sharing those as well. Thank you all so much.